Hey, big fan, absolutely. How are you feeling? I'm good. You're resilient. The way you bounce back says a lot. I respect your toughness. You're a dog. Come on, man, good luck out there. Now, as training camp heats up, I want to shift the spotlight to how the media narrative continues to frame Shedeur Sanders, and more specifically, how one of the most influential voices in football commentary, Pat McAfee, has shaped that narrative. Let's be honest, in the realm of football media, who carries more weight than Pat McAfee right now? Drop your answers in the comments if you disagree. Is it ESPN, Fox Sports, maybe the Zetzel boys and their college football podcast? They're good, no doubt. But when it comes to reach, numbers, and cultural pull, Pat McAfee is the face of modern football entertainment. And when it comes to Shedeur Sanders, McAfee has remained fairly consistent. Sure, Pat is known for his Ohio State bias, for riding with Will Howard, or even hating on the Indianapolis Colts, specifically AR-15. But when it comes to Coach Prime and Shedeur, Pat's been surprisingly objective. So let's walk through the timeline. Let's examine the Shedeur McAfee media journey and see how it's evolved. We'll start at Radio Row during the Super Bowl, February 7th, where Pat and Shedeur had their first official on-camera interaction. Then we'll rewind all the way to September 4th, 2023. When Deion Sanders had just taken the reins at Colorado and first began discussing Shedeur's potential. Since then, we've seen a series of reactions from Dan Orlovsky, Field Yates, Ian Rappaport, and others, some praising, others doubting. But what stands out most is how Pat McAfee defended Shedeur Sanders. When the narrative began to shift, especially when Peter Schrager tried to reshape public perception. So this video, it's going to be more laid back. We're just vibing, watching clips, analyzing moments, and breaking it down piece by piece. Appreciate y'all rocking with it. Big fan, how you feeling? Good, you've got heart. I respect that. You're a dog. Keep grinding, you're changing the game, man. You're going to be legendary. Just remember, it wasn't just Colorado you changed. Don't forget the HBCU you transformed too. That last line hits different. Now let me talk my talk for a second. I've been watching Pat since the pandemic era, back when his show first blew up. To now see Pat McAfee, the self-made sports media mogul, stand face-to-face with Shedeur Sanders, a young quarterback who's had to navigate hate, politics, and skepticism, that moment hit. Both of these men marched to the beat of their own drum, and that mutual recognition was powerful. Notice what Pat emphasized: toughness. In all the critiques about his chains, tweets, or even his personal draft room setup, no one wanted to acknowledge the real story. Shedeur took more sacks than anyone in the FBS. He endured constant hits and never once blamed his teammates. People always bring up one clip, the Nebraska game, and claim he threw someone under the bus. One clip, and it's already been debunked, so tell me, where's the second example? You can't find one, because it doesn't exist. Meanwhile, here's Pat McAfee telling him to his face, you're a culture changer. You've shifted the atmosphere not just once, but twice. Now look at how Pat talks about Coach Prime and Shedeur on his show. After a game where Shedeur threw for 500 plus yards, he said it himself. This was legendary. That was the best performance of his life, and he said it himself in the post-game interview. Just a kid from an HBCU putting up numbers like that, he was phenomenal. And let's not forget, after transferring to Colorado, Shedeur was briefly considered a Heisman sleeper. Even as old school media dismissed his chances, Pat reminded everyone that regardless of the school, Shedeur Sanders is Deion's son, a young man who's been raised in greatness, trained in fire, and built to lead. He's surgical, absolutely surgical. Shedeur's been diagnosing defenses and audibling at the line since he was 6 years old. That's not an exaggeration. According to Coach Prime, the first thing he ever taught his son was how to dissect coverages. The kid played both sides of the ball and developed a football mind well beyond his years. But let me pause right there, because Deion Sanders might be the greatest natural promoter in sports history. Some folks, I won't say who, like to dismiss his comments as over-the-top hype or a flashy sales pitch. But let's call it what it is. He's got charisma, conviction, and he knows exactly how to frame greatness. 6 years old, calling his own plays. Could it be true? Yeah. And even if it's exaggerated, that's prime time. Only Deion could take a basic post-game question, when did you know your son was special, and flip it into a mythical origin story. The man said, he's been elite since he came out the womb. That's some Talladega Nights. Next level storytelling. You've got to respect it, not just for the flair, but for how he elevates everyone around him. Now, all that flair aside, there's real football substance behind the hype. Deion doesn't just say Shedeur understands blitzes and coverages. He proves it. He talks about Shedeur staying calm under pressure, reading defensive rotations, never getting rattled. That poise at the line of scrimmage, that's elite quarterbacking DNA. Let's pivot back to the facts and the narratives that matter. Remember 2023? Back then, it wasn't Brady mode. It was Sanders mode. You gave Shedeur the ball with under 2 minutes, and you better not change the channel. Colorado State, North Dakota State, Bailey, the late game heroics, the impossible throws. Everyone remembers Lejan Cavazos' clutch catch, but did y'all forget who made the throw? Did you forget Shedeur rolling left, launching a 50-yard dime in the rain and putting the team on his back? And yet, how quickly we forget. Let's talk football. Every elite quarterback needs to have that gear, that cold-blooded fourth-quarter killer instinct. Some QBs are stoic, some wear their heart on their sleeve. Mahomes will scream, "Let's fucking go." Brady will flex like a gladiator. And Shedeur? He stays level-headed but lets his fire show when it matters. The murmurs began on Tuesday. By Friday, it was the only thing being whispered in war rooms across the league. Now the world is starting to understand why Coach Prime has remained so adamant about his son's future in the NFL. What you're about to hear may completely redefine your perspective on the 2025 NFL Draft. But before we dive into what happened in that exclusive training session, I have a question for you. How many times have we seen quarterback prospects get hyped into oblivion, only to completely collapse when the lights hit? How many Heisman darlings have disintegrated under the relentless pressure of the pros? Remember Ryan Leaf? Remember Jamarcus Russell? The cemetery of overhyped quarterbacks is packed with players who dominated Saturdays but disintegrated on Sundays. And that's what makes what Shedeur did last week so staggeringly profound. This wasn't some cut-up highlight reel against weak collegiate defenses. This wasn't a manipulated social media clip meant to bolster his brand. This was pure, unfiltered, NFL-caliber evaluation, conducted under intense scrutiny. Here's what we know. About 3 weeks ago, word began circulating through NFL circles. Shedeur Sanders had orchestrated a private workout in Miami. But this wasn't just any workout. This was held at the elite performance facility frequented by legends like Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers, a place known for refining greatness, far from media chaos and public noise. But Shedeur wasn't inviting yes men. He summoned the wolves. Former NFL defensive coordinators, ruthless evaluators, critics who don't care about social media buzz or flashy bloodlines, guys who've scouted everyone from Peyton Manning to Patrick Mahomes, and they showed up. Picture the scene. It's 6:00 a.m. in Miami. The sun is just beginning to cast golden rays over the pristine field. Inside the facility, the air is electric with anticipation. 15 stone-faced NFL executives, scouts, and coaches. Clipboards ready, eyes narrowed. Then Shedeur walks in. No PR team, no music, no spotlight. Just a young man carrying the weight of a historic last name and the hopes of a generation of fans who believe in him. The silence was deafening. Then came the drills. The first one seemed basic, 40-yard throws to stationary targets, but these weren't college receivers. These were former NFL route technicians, professionals who test a quarterback's precision and rhythm like no college corner ever could. Shedeur's first throw? A laser, 40 yards on a rope, perfect spiral, pinpoint placement. The scouts exchanged glances, still stoic. Second throw. The stakes rise. A comeback route requiring anticipation, NFL-level timing, and blind trust. Shedeur releases the ball before the receiver makes his break. It lands directly on the chest at the precise moment of the turn. One scout drops his clipboard. And that was just the warm-up. Then came the real trial-simulated pressure. Full speed, full intensity. A defense composed of recent NFL starters, not scrubs. Veterans who lived to confuse quarterbacks with disguises, rotations, and mental chess. The scenario? 2-minute drill. Down by 6, no timeouts, 85 yards to glory. They knew they were witnessing something rare, something extraordinary, but that was just the beginning. The next drill was designed to expose flaws, crush egos, and test a quarterback's true composure under fire. They brought in pass rushers, not rookies, not washed-up veterans, but former Pro Bowlers, warriors who spent years wreaking havoc on NFL backfields. These were men who perfected the art of pressure, who made a living reducing quarterbacks to rubble. The setup was merciless, a 7-step drop, deep developing routes, and relentless pressure coming from every direction. No favors, no soft reps, no coddling the kid with the famous last name. Shedeur takes the snap. Chaos erupts. A speed demon barrels off the edge. A bulldozer crashes through the interior. A linebacker times a delayed blitz to perfection. The pocket implodes. Rapidly, violently. Any typical QB would fold. Most would flee. Some would hit the turf and pray. But not Shedeur. He glides 2 steps left, calm, calculated, never taking his eyes off the field. Then, under direct fire, he unleashes a 30-yard dime, threading it between 2 defenders. As a defender closes in, he gets hit hard, but the ball sails cleanly, crisply into the receiver's hands. The pass rusher, who was about to level him, he just stops and watches. The facility freezes in stunned silence. Then, one clap. Then another, and within seconds, the entire scouting contingent is on their feet, erupting into applause like they just witnessed the birth of a legend. But that was just the drills. This isn't your typical off-season Cinderella tale where a rookie dazzles for a few practices, fans cheer, and reality soon reclaims its throne. No, this is upheaval. This is the tremor before the quake. A cultural reset wrapped in shoulder pads and soaked ambition. That now viral footage of Shedeur grinding alone in the rain, it wasn't just visually compelling, it was symbolic. In a league obsessed with image, this wasn't curated content. No entourage, no glossy camera angles, just rain-slicked turf, drenched gloves, and a quarterback possessed by purpose. And it sparked a question Cleveland's been too afraid to ask for years. What if the best quarterback on the roster isn't the most expensive, the most seasoned, or the most hyped? What if he's a 22-year-old machine built brick by brick in Deion Sanders' house of iron? You can feel the shift in the air. The veterans sense it, the coaching staff senses it, and the fans, they already know. Shedeur isn't gently knocking on opportunity's door, he's kicking it off the hinges. While the Browns front office plays the politics of depth charts with whispered caution, the truth is already loud. There's a revolution unfolding at quarterback, and the only question now is whether Cleveland will lead it or get trampled by it before the social clips, before the ESPN takes, before the whispers leaked. From Berea to the national stage, Shedeur Sanders was already in the shadows, grinding before the sun came up. And long after the field lights faded, no cameras, no endorsements, no clout-chasing crew, just a soaked field, a soaked QB, and the kind of grueling repetition that never trends, yet always shows up on Sundays. What separates Shedeur from every other off-season darling? He didn't want the cameras. That viral video wasn't a PR stunt. It was leaked, captured by a stunned team assistant who stumbled upon a lone warrior executing footwork drills in midnight rain like a surgeon rehearsing a high-stakes operation. He wasn't posing, he was preparing. Deep outs, perfect timing, wind whipping, hands freezing, and he stayed, and he kept throwing. The rawness of it hit hard because it didn't feel like marketing, it felt like obsession. That's what lit the spark, not a TikTok, not a coach's praise, but proof. Proof that Shedeur isn't chasing media relevance, he's chasing greatness. When that clip started circulating within the Browns' own walls, the energy shifted. Conversations turned from whispers to declarations. Coaches raised eyebrows. Players started texting, "Yo, you seen this?" And they started showing up earlier, too. Because when your quarterback's in the rain at midnight grinding, how dare you stroll in late the next day? But let's be real, viral moments don't earn you starting jobs. Production does. And what Shedeur's doing in camp, that's where the myth meets measurement. We all love the underdog narrative, grit, grind, solitude. But if it doesn't translate into execution on the field, it's just soggy theater. Only Shedeur is producing. He's not just working hard. He's outperforming the entire quarterback room. Let this sink in. 75% completion rate in camp as a rookie against NFL speed. These aren't soft drills with hand-picked targets. These are full-sped reps with second and third string receivers battling professional defenders. And yet, he's delivering darts on time, on script, with calm precision. So now, I'm turning the mic to you. If you're Andrew Berry, what's your move? Do you ride the wave with Sanders and hand him the reins early, or do you stay the course with the veterans while Sanders marinates? And on defense, are you already sensing the makings of the league's most fearsome front seven? Drop your thoughts in the comments, smash that like button, and hit subscribe if you're ready to ride with me all season long. That balance, that calm and chaos is what makes a true leader of men, but nobody wants to talk about that, right? Instead, they'd rather obsess over his jewelry, his tweets, his draft room setup. I've seen hundreds of think pieces criticizing his chains, but barely a whisper about the fact that he took more hits than any quarterback in FBS, and never once threw his teammates under the bus. You keep referencing that one Nebraska clip, out of context, debunked, irrelevant. Where's the second example? You can't find one. Because it doesn't exist. Now let's bring in Dan Orlovsky, April 3rd, pre-draft season. But what happened next? That's when things truly turned historic, because after every series, Shedeur didn't head to the sideline to celebrate. He walked over to the defenders. He asked questions. What coverage were you disguising? What tipped your rotation? What would you do differently? He wasn't just playing the game, he was studying it in real time, dissecting it, mastering it. A former NFL linebacker, floored by what he witnessed, told reporters, "I've worked out with quarterbacks who've been in the league for a decade, and they don't ask the questions this kid was asking. He's processing info and adjusting in ways I don't even see from some current starters." The workout lasted hours of nonstop, high-stakes, NFL-level execution, and by the end, everything changed. The scouts who walked in cold, arms crossed and skeptical, were now huddled together, buzzing. They were scribbling notes like madmen. Some were pacing. Others were staring at Shedeur like they'd just seen football's future unfold right in front of them. One general manager, who requested anonymity, was overheard saying, "We just watched the most complete quarterback workout I've seen in 20 years. This kid's not just NFL ready, he could start tomorrow." But the impact of that day didn't end when the doors closed. Within 48 hours, 3 teams had already reached out to Shedeur's camp requesting private meetings. Teams that had shown little interest before were suddenly reshuffling their draft boards. Rumors began swirling. The New York Giants, in desperate search of a franchise savior, allegedly sent both their head coach and offensive coordinator to review film of the workout. The Las Vegas Raiders, hungry for a face of the franchise, reportedly had their owner personally contact Shedeur's agent. But the most telling reaction, it came from the one man who didn't need to be there to believe it. When asked about his son's now legendary workout, Deion Sanders simply smiled and said, "I told y'all, nobody wanted to listen." That confidence, that unwavering prime swagger, it's finally starting to make sense to the rest of the world. Because this wasn't just a display of raw talent. This wasn't just another pretty arm in a helmet. Dan makes it plain. If you dropped Shedeur Sanders on Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, it'd be a wrap. And he's right. You take away the disadvantages, the offensive line gaps, the lack of legacy infrastructure, and Shedeur would have shattered expectations. But instead of joining a ready-made powerhouse, he and his father built 2 programs from scratch. That's legacy. That's leadership. NFL scouts talk about adjusting to the pro game. Let me tell you something. This dude's already been playing it. Sure, you can question decisions made under duress. When you're running for your life, not every throw is perfect. And here's the kicker. This happens every year. 1 or 2 teams rise from the ashes, no one gives them a shot, and then they catch fire. Why can't that be Cleveland? They want to run the football, play elite defense, limit turnovers, and capitalize when the moment strikes. That's the formula. But let's be honest. This quarterback room wasn't overflowing with elite options. Watson's still chasing the ghost of what he once was while burning through cash like he's funding a SpaceX launch. Each Sunday feels like an episode of Will the Real Franchise QB Please Stand Up? Spoiler, he doesn't. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, electrifying potential but still rawer than sashimi. Meanwhile, the team snuck in a 5th-round quarterback pick claiming it wasn't planned. But hey, best player available, right? Enter Shedeur Sanders. Not a legacy kid riding daddy's fame. Not a TikTok quarterback, a baller who threw for over 3,200 yards behind an offensive line made of wet cardboard and false hope. He had defenders in his lap before the snap and still delivered dimes like he had Amazon Prime in his veins. The criticism? Laughable. Overhyped? Flashy? Privileged? The tape says otherwise. This kid's calm, in chaos. He's deliberate, sharp, unbothered by grown men trying to decapitate him in the pocket. He's not just surviving, he's dissecting defenses with surgeon-like precision. So the Browns took the flyer, low risk, enormous upside. Give him a few reps, just a taste. But then, the offense shifts, tempo spikes, receivers are catching in stride. The defense, dazed, confused, possibly Googling who is this kid from the sidelines. And suddenly it's a problem. This wasn't supposed to happen. Coaches begin saying things like, "We're evaluating all options." Translation, "We didn't expect this, and now we're rethinking everything." Deschamps sulking on the sideline. Dorian's throwing picks like it's clearance week. The QB room feels like it's under siege. And then there's the noise. Critics latch onto off-field nonsense. Merchandise lines, interviews, social media. They say he's already calling himself legendary. But here's the truth. Shedeur doesn't need to call himself that. His play is screaming it for him, and if this continues into scrimmages against the Eagles and Panthers, it's over. But Shedeur made the right throws. He made the smart decisions. He made plays when it mattered most. Let's get to the comps. Dan Orlovsky compared him to Tua Tagovailoa. Shedeur doesn't have Tua's rare anticipation, sure, but guess what? Tua's not an athletic marvel either. He wins with ball placement, rhythm, and cerebral reads. And that's where Shedeur shines. 4,134 passing yards, 37 touchdowns, 75.5 QBR, all while absorbing more pressure and punishment than any other Power 5 quarterback. And he never folded, never blamed, never quit. So while everyone else was busy nitpicking his social media or questioning his leadership, Dan Orlovsky, on the biggest football stage, said it best. This guy is tough as nails. He's got the it factor, and he consistently makes the right throw. Thank you, guys. See you next video.